Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Neal Barnard. This is an unprecedented time. And when you go into grocery stores, people are running around filling their carts, hoarding all kinds of things. And let me tell you something. You're hoarding all wrong. You're getting unhealthy foods. Let me show you some foods that you ought to be stocking up on. Okay, the first one, a no-brainer, and that's old-fashioned oatmeal. Why? It's healthy, brings your cholesterol down, lasts forever, and it's filling. But I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. Maybe for some people a little oatmeal with some cinnamon and raisins and blueberries is good. But every time I make it, I follow the instructions and it turns out like rocks. Well, what's the answer? Let me give you a quick 1-minute cooking tip. How to prepare perfect oatmeal that you'd actually want to eat. First of all, if you want your oatmeal to be crunchy, do what it says on the package. Boil the water, then pour the oatmeal in. That seals the oatmeal grains and it keeps them kind of crispy. But let's say you like a nice bowl of creamy oatmeal. What you should do instead is put the water and the oats in the pan first, not hot, then turn it on, and if the oats are already in the water when it heats up, it'll turn out nice and creamy. Very simple. And of course you can top it with whatever you want. Strawberries, blueberries, almond slivers. I actually saw some people putting bacon on their oatmeal. Sorry, several points off. Don't do that. Okay, next thing. Let's say every morning you have your cold cereal with cow's milk. Ditch the cow's milk. Instead, pick up some soy milk or almond milk or hemp milk or oat milk. There are a million of them nowadays, and in their cartons, they last just about forever. They taste great, and they're healthy for you. Number 3, rice. Rice lasts a long time, extremely nourishing. And there's white rice. Extra points for brown rice. But I know what you're thinking now. You're saying, wait a minute, I made brown rice once and it came out just like wet newspapers. Here's why. Brown rice has the fiber still on it. And that fiber coating absorbs some water and can make it kind of mushy. So what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to spend a few $100s and get a really expensive rice cooker. Maybe. I got another tip for you. Here's what you do. Here's how to make perfect brown rice. Number 1, take about a cup of rice. This can be brown rice in a saucepan, a cup of rice in the saucepan, and now rinse it. Put it underneath your faucet, get it all wet, and then drain that extra water off. And now you're just left with some damp rice in a pan. Put it on the stove, turn up the heat to high, and stir it dry. This will take maybe 2 minutes. Not longer than that. We're not making popcorn. We're just toasting it a little bit until it's all nice and dry, crackling just a hair. At that point, we're going to fill it with extra water. You know when you cook rice, the package instructions say 1 part rice, 2 parts water. Don't do that. Even at the risk that your roommate is going to rush in and say, don't do it this way, here's what you should be doing. 3 parts water or more per 1 part of rice. What you're doing is you're cooking it like pasta. And then when it's done, you just drain that extra water off. How long? About 40 minutes. Okay? So rinse it off, stir it dry, toast it a little bit, and then cook it for 40 minutes with extra water, drain off the extra water. Best rice you've ever had. Now this will work with brown rice. It works great. This will also work with white rice to a degree, but it's better with brown. And extra points if it's short grain rather than long grain. It has a little bit of a nuttier texture, but long grain is fine too. Okay, next, beans. If you've been a person who's always having canned beans, that's great. They last a really long time. But how about cooking them from scratch? I know what you're thinking. I thought this too. It takes forever. Who has time? Well, I came to a realization. If you're soaking the beans, they soak themselves. You put them in water and you can go do something else. And while you're cooking, they cook too. They don't require close supervision. Let me show you how to cook beans from scratch. Step 1, take about a cup of beans and rinse it off. The instructions always say that because they say there might be a little bit of a stone or stick in there. And I have to tell you, I have never found one. But nonetheless, I rinse them anyway, and you should too. And then we soak them overnight. Put it in a big pot and more than cover the beans with water. And add a little bit of salt, maybe about a tablespoon of salt. Why? Because otherwise, without that salt, sometimes the beans can have that outer coating can be a little bit leathery the next day. And somehow the salt seems to stop that. The theory is it keeps calcium from getting in from your water into the beans. Who knows, but add a little salt. You'll be glad you did. Then, tomorrow morning, what you do is drain off that water, the soaking water, and rinse it again, and now fill it with fresh water, and boil it for just about an hour, maybe a little bit more, but not more than that. They don't have to boil for a really long time. And then you've got great beans. Now what do I do with them? My favorite thing in the world, get an immersion blender. Do you know these things? They cost very little, maybe 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 40 bucks. And you put it into your pot of beans and you go, and it purees the beans into this beautiful creamy texture. And now, best of all, take those little tubs with the red lids, you know the ones that they have, portion it out, and you can freeze them. Put one portion in one, another portion in another one, and they last for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now, when you're ready to have them for lunch, you just take your little container, you run it under hot water, under your faucet, and out pops this little brick of frozen beans. Put it in a bowl, you can microwave it for a couple of minutes, and you've got fabulous beans. To make it even more fabulous, how about topping it with a little pico de gallo? You know what I'm talking about. You dice some tomatoes, some onions, a little cilantro if you are a cilantro lover, a little bit of lime juice, a little bit of jalapenos, put it on top. Delicious. Batch cooking. That's the secret. By the way, while you're thinking about beans, don't stick with just black beans or pinto beans. You can, but why not explore? There are a million kinds of beans in the bulk aisle, in the cans aisle, in those little bags that they have all stacked up on the shelf. And don't overlook that basic one, chickpeas. Chickpeas are transformed into hummus. And you can get hummus at the store, but you know what? If you make your own, it is so cheap, so quick, and now you're controlling the flavor, the oil content, everything, and it's super easy to do. Here's what you do. Get a food processor. If you don't have one, they run maybe 50 bucks will buy you a perfectly serviceable one. And I've got a recipe for you that I will give you. You just put the chickpeas, maybe a clove of garlic, a little tahini, not a lot, just a little bit for flavor, some parsley, some onions, a little water, black pepper, some salt. Zip it down in your food processor. Add a little extra water so it's nice and creamy. You'll notice I did not throw in lots of oil, or frankly any oil. There's a little bit of fat in the tahini and that is about it. But you'll discover if you add just enough water, it's creamy and tasty without all that extra grease. So have fun with it. What you'll discover is the store has all kinds of beans and other legumes that you'll want to try. Okay, so let's review. What's on my list so far? Oatmeal, fair enough. Have my cold cereal with a non-dairy milk, and there are so many out there. Brown rice is great. Other kinds of rice are fine too. Beans, dried or canned, and have salsa and other seasonings for fun. Okay, but there's a lot more. Oh, did I forget the obvious one? Vegetables. Vegetables are the healthiest things there are, and you can get them frozen. They're not expensive. You know those little bricks of frozen vegetables they sell at the store? They cost almost pennies. Oh, wait. You're phobic of broccoli. Well, the solution is not years of psychoanalysis to try to figure out where that phobia came from. The answer is flavorings. Go to the store. There's a product. If you've never seen this, this will change your life. It's called Bragg Liquid Aminos. Tastes like soy sauce. You just spray it on kale, collards, spinach, broccoli, and they just come alive. Or try some rice vinegar or even a squirt of lemon juice. For reasons I cannot explain, the bitter flavor of the vegetable combines with the sour flavor of the vinegar or the lemon juice, and they combine to make it almost sweet. This will work with any green vegetable. And if you have a vegetable-phobic child at home, they will love it. Now, I mentioned seasoned rice vinegar, but there's a million others to try. Balsamic, there's a million. Have a look. Let's use the T word. Tofu is the one food people are really phobic of until they taste it made the right way. And then they just can't get enough of it. It's delicious, it's high in protein, but no cholesterol, no fat. And when you buy tofu, look at the date on it. It lasts a really long time in the refrigerator. And there's lots of ways of making it. You can scramble it up. And right next to the tofu in the store is something called tempeh. That might be a new word for you, but have a look at it. It's soybeans as well, but it's fermented and it can be sliced up and it tastes very much like bacon when it's sauteed. Very savory dish. Okay, so back to tofu. There are a lot of ways of making it. Some people just put it in a nonstick pan, scramble it up with a little turmeric to make it yellow, some soy sauce, maybe some miso, other spices, herbs, sometimes vegetables. Delicious. But let me share with you a trick that I found. Take your tofu block, slice it up, throw it in a nonstick pan, brown it on both sides. It just takes a couple minutes. And now pop it onto a plate and add a little bit of ginger, a little nutritional yeast, and some soy sauce. Delicious. It's sort of that high protein starter for your breakfast without any cholesterol, without any fat. I've got a recipe that I'll share with you. By the way, we were talking about cookware, putting it in a non-stick pan. You can get non-stick pans online. You can get them in culinary stores. And the best non-stick pans have a non-stick surface, and right under it is stainless steel. I'm shy about the ones that have aluminum as the top layer because the aluminum is linked in some studies to Alzheimer's risk. Have it be stainless steel under the nonstick surface. A couple other tips. Use a very, very gentle sponge when you clean up your cookware. If you're rough with it, you'll start peeling the layer off and it's not going to last very long. And don't throw any oil in. Keep it clean. This will surprise you. It will be perfectly fine. It'll last much, much longer without the oil. Okay? How about a veggie burger? They've been around forever and there are more brands than ever before. You'll see them at the store. You can keep them in your freezer. They last a really long time. So what's on my list? I start out with oatmeal, and if I have cold cereal, I'll top it with a non-dairy milk, brown rice, beans, salsa and other seasonings, veggies, fresh, frozen, canned, they're all fine. Bragg's aminos, vinegars, tofu or tempeh. Let me say another word about nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is on our list because it has a cheesy flavor, no fat. You'll often find it in the supplement aisle or the bulk aisle at the store, and you got to fight through the bodybuilders who are all getting it because it's high protein, no fat. Nutritional yeast. By the way, it's not baker's yeast, and it's not brewer's yeast. Those are bitter. Nutritional yeast is bright yellow, cheesy flavor, delicious. So this is an unprecedented time. We're home, and we could be snacking on all kinds of unhealthy things, and when this current situation is over, we're going to have more regrets than when we started. How about this? Let's make this a time to stock up on healthy foods and let ourselves get as healthy as possible in the meantime. Thanks a lot.